Welcome, everybody. We're here today with the Baltimore City Youth Action Board. My name is Micah Avery. I'm one of the co-chairs.
Yes, I'm Lamar. I'm also one of the co-chairs of the Baltimore City Youth Action Board.
Hi, my name is Dre. I'm a board member.
Hi, my name is Siklali. I'm from Los Angeles, California, and I'm here visiting as a guest. Thank you.
Yes.
Welcome.
All right, just to give everybody a little background on the Baltimore City Youth Action Board, we are a group of young people aged 16 to 24 that advocate for youth homelessness. And we do this in a plethora of ways, guys. We are out in the community giving out resources, connecting folks to places that can give them some support, meeting with legislators, advocating for policies that advance the city of Baltimore, the state of Maryland. So, yeah. Today, we're going to be talking about voting, though, in light of the primary election in Maryland coming up on the 23rd of this month, June 23rd. We thought it was really important to kind of sit down with a bunch of young people and kind of gather what our perspective is on voting. So we're going to try to be really raw today, pretty honest. Not sure if it's going to be super politically correct, but we're gonna get to it. So I think one of the most important things that we decided to open up with is discussing why young people feel so disconnected from voting and politics right now.
Personally, I think it comes from a couple of things. I think that it essentially can come from the lack of knowing who exactly is representing your area, because when it comes to elections and whatnot, we're so used to the presidential election. Um, we don't necessarily understand. A lot of us as youth don't necessarily like see the importance of like local election, how that really is detrimental and how it impacts the communities that we live in. Um, so as far as voting, yes, we do go out and vote when it comes to the presidential election because that's what we know. But as far as like local elections, I think we don't give that as much importance when it comes to that. And then also too, when it comes to electing officials, we have in our current climate today, when it comes to this administration as well, it just seems like there's a loss of hope when it comes to voting, just because we're told that essentially that when it comes to our vote, it doesn't necessarily matter. When you are conditioned by the adults that you're around and like your peers and whatnot to pretty much just have this opinion saying that, oh, your vote doesn't matter. The electoral college gets to make pretty much like the final decision anyway. Um, you tend to not even really care about voting because, like I said, it's a conditioning thing to where we are told essentially that our vote doesn't matter because of X, Y, and Z. So if I'm told that my vote doesn't matter, it's due to the fact that other people hold the power to essentially have this vote and whatnot on my behalf, then it kind of discourages me to vote too.
Yeah, that makes sense. And if I can add, just from somebody coming from a different state, from California, at least for youth over there, at least speaking for myself personally, I do think that voting is important, but I know that a lot of youth kind of struggle with knowing where to even start. Like, where can I go to find information about who to vote for, what their stances are, and pretty much like knowing about them, because ultimately, your vote goes towards these people. And then, especially when it comes to local elections, a lot of people don't think that it matters because they're like, well, I'm not really seeing much coming out of it. Like, I'm not really seeing change happen. And I think another thing too is we want like immediate action, we want immediate change. And so when we don't see that, we're like, what's the point? It doesn't even matter. Does my vote even count towards what actually matters? And I don't know, I think for me, like, it does take a lot of time and energy. And so as a full-time student also working, it can be hard to like find the time to be like, okay, let me sit down, let me, figure out who I want to vote for, what their, values are, and like if we align. Because ultimately that's like my biggest thing is like, do I even have the time to vote?
Yeah. And I completely agree with that. I think, kind of from my perspective, it's always felt like this distrust for politicians. I think that always held me up a little bit. The idea that, yeah, we can go out and vote, and somebody has this great campaign and they love to get on their podium and talk about, oh, we're going to help relieve student debt. Yeah, we're going to expand Medicaid coverage, things like that. And then they get into office and you're like, Joe, what happened to that student debt relief that we were gonna get? So it feels very discouraging. It feels like they make a lot of false promises, and then when it comes time to put the money where their mouth is, the money's actually in their pocket. So I think that's always been something that was a little difficult for me. Trust. I think I have trust issues when it comes to politics.
Fair. I mean, I agree with everybody else. I think it's a myriad of reasons. Primarily, if we're talking about like from the youth perspective, I think it's quite fascinating how many world leaders are like 80 plus. And like that just adds another layer to like the alienation we feel from the voting process, from politics in general. Like you were saying, politics is a full-time job. Like being politically aware, like to know what's going on at all times.
Yeah.
It's so easy to check out. Like politics, is an active thing. Voting is an active thing, and it's so easy to just choose not to be active in that sense. Also, living in like a primarily blue state like Maryland, does my vote really matter all that much? Like when I'm thinking in terms of like federal elections, local elections, the numbers are probably a little bit more, whatever. But we're gonna vote blue every year. It's really okay.
I don't know. I definitely have to challenge that. I'm not gonna lie. Yeah, I'll say we're a blue state, but you're right. When it comes to a lot of state legislation, like through the Maryland General Assembly or even at the local level, there's a lot of Republicans in the state, and it can go either way. Not that it's a good or bad thing. I just think that we do live in a state where a lot of things are up for grabs. We have a considerable amount of wealthy people in this state, and we also have a considerable amount of people who are very impoverished. And I think those politics definitely battle back and forth, at least on the state level, in a way that may not feel so in your face. So we may see a lot of Democratic leaders or people that identify with the Democratic Party, but when it comes down to it, a lot of conservative legislation actually being passed on these committees. So I think we're in a funky state for that.
Yeah, I also think too, when it comes to youth not voting, it's more so the fact of like kind of echoing your point that you made earlier, if that politicians make promises that they don't keep. It's a performance. I think youth of today's age are tired of a performance. But then also too, when it comes to when your point too, when it comes to Maryland being a blue state, it's been primarily a blue state for a long time now. As opposed to other states, because I'm from Indiana, so that's been primarily a red. So with that being said, it kind of really just shows like how I would dare say that in states who have been primarily blue consecutively, don't necessarily see it as much of a grave risk when it comes to voting, as opposed to the youth in red states or like those in swing states who
That's true.
See, not to say that anybody else or any other group of people essentially see voting more as important just based off the state of where they live at, but more so the fact that like you see more people, I would say, who want to be in liberation feel more suppressed in red states. And when it comes to that, they're going to try and do everything in their power to pretty much essentially like organize and be able to essentially move to liberation, as opposed to blue states where you see with New York recently, for example, where they literally just passed a bill where it goes to gender affirming care. And as far as that, and these are promises that Mandami made that he's following through. And this is the first time we see, like, a
And
politician do
quickly.
that, and quickly.
Yeah.
Universal child care and
Yes.
stuff like that, as opposed to like other states who have made like promises like that and are slowly moving along. But we also have to remember too that these are people who are being backed by large organizations or corporations who don't necessarily have like the same ideals, so they can't necessarily use the same money that they've gotten endorsed with per se to essentially put out the ideals that they put out there in their campaign, which kind of shows like they're contradictory, like, because in a way that they still want to like do it, but it's kind of hard to like maneuver around that when you have like your sponsors whatnot threatening to like back away because of like
It's lobbying at the end of the day.
Yeah.
That's the spirit of lobbying, is being able to show up to an elected official and state your piece or give whatever you have to offer in hopes that they'll vote accordingly, whether it's what they truly believed, whether it's what they campaigned on. And I think that's really scary. That's really, really scary when it comes to this country and our political system, how much money not only changes people, but influences legislation as a whole. And it does make us, I think, as young people, have to step back and say, okay, well, we're not millionaires and billionaires. So, yeah, how much does my vote matter? How much does what I have to say matter? I can't front the bill for that, you know?
If I could tap in for just a sec. I'm so glad you brought up the youth thing again, because I was sitting here as you guys were going on thinking, especially from the perspective of like the people that we advocate for, you know, the young adults, teenagers still in high school. We go to these events, we talk to the kids, we get a little bit of their perspective. As like a homeless young person, or if that were my, you know, experience, why would I even care about what's going on in politics right now? You know what I mean? And I don't mean to pose it quite that frankly, but they don't seem to care too much about me. And like my life is, I got to go to work tomorrow. I still got to keep it pushing regardless of who's in office. You know what I mean? So like, why should I invest so much time and like so much brain power into like something that on a surface level at least doesn't feel like it's changing anything for me? You know what I mean? I think it's a very fair question.
I think that definitely leads us into our next discussion, which is, why do youth voices matter? Like you said, there's a lot of times where it doesn't feel like it impacts us, or if it does impact us, that, you know, people aren't listening. So why do we think that it's so important that we're in the room? Because like you said, yeah, regardless, we still have to wake up and go to school in the morning, go to work in the morning, regardless if Trump won last night or not.
The people who are making these decisions on our behalf, they are doing it without taking our experience into consideration. I think it's along the same lines that you were mentioning earlier about money changing people in a sense. It allows you to be so alienated from like the everyday man's experience that like, I don't even think it's genuinely out of malice most of the time. I think it's just like out of sight, out of mind. I don't know what these people are going through. But how can you represent a population that you have no relation to?
That's true. That's true. But I also think that I have a couple thoughts actually. I do think that with youth, I would say, because normally like with politicians and adults and whatnot, or older adults, I'll say, because we are adults.
Are we?
Well, yeah,
Life is life, and y'all.
we can get drafted to the military.
Girl,
No.
I got flat feet.
But essentially, with that being said, like, the older generation tends to say that we are tomorrow's leaders. I feel like we are today's leaders. And with that being said, I feel like the saying of being tomorrow's leaders kind of just pushes us to the side, just being like, okay, you're there, but you're baking, just cooks aside. But then also as well, when it comes to youth, I feel like as though lots of politicians and whatnot milk off our experiences. Just because even though they'll say, granted, like, oh, I experienced this when I was young, but it wasn't at the same capacity. For example, when it comes to youth homelessness, and especially in my expertise when it comes to youth homelessness, being homeless or housing insecure in college, there are lots of times where there are administrators and adults who will sympathize with you and cooperate and try to quote unquote help you in the best way they know, but it's only for their gain. Um, and with that being said, I think that it matters for us to be able to be in the space and move along with one another, just because we have to show up and support one another and be able to show that not only our experiences are different from the past, but then also as well how we can move forward in today's future and modernize solutions as opposed to just sticking to old recipes.
Yeah.
And working in collaboration with older people. I'll tell you what, I cannot stand hearing older people say, "Oh, it's up to your generation. You guys are the future. It's your job, to fix this mess." You're still alive.
Right.
We're all walking the same damn planet here. Like, we all live in the same country. We all have the exact same amount of voting power.
Right.
Why is that our responsibility as young people to somehow be more innovative in these solutions? I think there's just such a severe disconnect between youth and older adults when it comes to that. But that was always something that it sounds so, it just sounds like passing the torch off before you're even done your part of the race. You're still here. Why is that something that the youth have to carry alone and not something that we're doing in tandem with each other? But I digress.
Gotcha. Okay, so that kind of leads into a question that I have. So, what are some issues that you would like elected officials to pretty much just look into, solve, and pretty much just alleviate when it comes to the youth? I was say when it comes to policies and whatnot, because there's lots of things that can be done, but we can only ask for so much.
You want to take this?
Yeah. At least personally, I feel like as a youth coming from California, and it's also a pretty blue state, but at least with our last election for the primaries, it was a little up in the air because kind of like, what we've been saying, when you're living in like a blue state, you think, okay, like, what does it matter if I vote or not in this election? Like, it's gonna be blue. But at least like in California, it was looking a little, concerning because I think a lot of people were having that mentality of like, it doesn't matter, like it's gonna be blue regardless. But it's things change and things come up. I think a policy that would be important is specifically related to LGBTQ youth, especially because I don't feel like there's enough policy right now related to that. And, especially with this administration, there's just a lot of things under fire. And at least to me, like that hits home, And like, I'm not trying to get emotional or anything, but like, I feel like that's something that we need to advocate more now than ever. But yeah, I don't know. I want to allow room for others to add on if they want to.
I think that's a good mindset to even go into answering this question with, is like allowing people the space to like say what they need. You know what I mean? I can't speak for everybody. I don't know what everybody needs. I do like the point that you mentioned about LGBTQ rights, but I also want to tap in and say that women's rights are also very important. Bodily autonomy, trying to police women's bodies and control their bodies. It's all downstream of like the world's the patriarchy that we live in. You know what I mean? Like the world's hatred for women and femininity. I wish there were more. Is civil rights the word I want to use? The term I want to use?
Yeah, at that point.
Yeah, just like protections for like the most vulnerable populations. You know what I mean?
Yeah, that makes sense. And if I can add, I think another one too right now is like abortion. Like it's, oh my God, like that has been an issue for the longest time, whether, pro-choice, pro-life.
Why is it even an issue?
Exactly. Like who cares? My body, my choice. Like, why are you getting into my business, first of all? And who are you to say what I can or can't do with my body? Like,
you heard it here, folks. Keep the government out your bedroom.
Right. Literally. Like, why do you care so much about what I do? And like, another thing is like, if you remove access to safe abortions, people are still going to do it, but they're just going to do it in a dangerous way. And then that just increases mortality rates. Like, I don't understand why politicians have, they feel like they could just say and do things that affect thousands of lives.
And it's
Because I feel
because
like
they can.
That's their job. That's
I feel like
their
that's part of
job.
their plan, though.
Yeah.
Like they want to scare you to not getting an abortion because at the end of the day, they don't like that. Essentially, because there's been data going around essentially that more women are getting abortions, and whatnot. And if you are having more people getting abortions and whatnot, you're not building upon the population.
A certain population, I
Yeah.
will say, but then they turn around and want to cut social programs.
Right.
And
Yep.
it's like,
Yep.
where are we? It's a lot of hypocrisy. It's
You
a
want
lot
me
of
to have the kid,
hypocrisy.
but you're not gonna
You
raise
want me
the
to have
kid.
that
Right.
child, but you don't care when that child's hungry. And I think they say that all the time. It's not being, pro-life, it's pro-birth. Because after, that baby comes out, you're on your own.
Right.
And
Control.
you know what I mean? There's no support.
Yeah.
But I think, sorry to bring it home, guys. Housing. I'm not going to stop talking about it. It is so fundamental to everything else in life. You constantly hear, when it comes to homeless people, get a job. And people forget, listen, you need stable housing in order to be able to shower each morning, get yourself together, find some mode of reliable transportation, and even get yourself to that employment. It's foundational for everything in life, for health, for safety, for prosperity, for employment. And especially for young people, that's why, it's huge for us on the Youth Action Board, because young people are entering an extremely vicious rental market right now. Like, home ownership has never been so off the table as it is in today's society. We don't have credit to go grab a loan. We don't have rental experience to put down on our applications. We don't have credit scores sometimes because, credit cards are scary, and we just haven't had that experience. So we're trying to navigate this rental market right now where prices just continue to go up. There's no rental caps. There's no, Section 8 list. You're on a wait list for 10 plus years at this point. Where's the help? Where's the help for young people? We're supposed to bet on the fact that we're going to go to school and get dorming. Where?
Right. And if I can add to that, another thing too is like with a lot of the housing policy, especially like for transitional housing and other stuff like that, there's usually that age cap. And so it's like, just because I turn 25 or 26 doesn't mean that I suddenly, am going to have housing when I turn 26, right? And like that's one thing that really bothers me when it comes to like those types of programs is like, I understand that they have these eligibility criteria for a reason, for grants and for funding. But then it's like, what about the youth or, young adults who don't exactly fit certain things? Like, what then? What resources are offered and available? And then again, like with all these budget cuts with this administration, it's like you're not giving us much choices,
Yeah, so I was say as far as that, that's actually a really good point. And then also too, I want to touch back on the question too, because a lot of the policies that I would like for elected officials to focus on would be surrounding housing and surrounding food too. Because I would say, because I've talked to a couple homeless people, and with that, it just kind of the conversation kind of surfaces around like, oh, like a big help with me would just be like housing, but then also too, food, just because I feel as though we are living in a society where we treat homeless people like rodents. Like it's kind of like our society, because I had somebody literally tell me one time that essentially like they're very wary of the food that people give them, because one time they received rotten food, and it's just very like it was intentional. So it's kind of like you are, whether it's intentional or not, it's kind of like, yeah. And then also too, like we just kind of like push people to the side, and it's kind of like we're creating a society where essentially, if let's just say you're trying to get somebody food, but you're trying to give them like cash or whatever the case may be, people kind of like stigmatize that just because of the simple fact of like, oh, you're going to use that to get drugs or whatever the case may be.
Yeah.
But that's probably not the case. You're just probably just trying to get some food.
Right.
And even if he is, listen.
And so
You know what I'm
what?
saying? So what?
What's that business of yours?
That's
Right.
not my
Yeah.
business. And if that's what it takes to get you through the rest of your day, you know what I mean? That's not for us to judge. If you're going to help people, there shouldn't be strings attached to it at that point. You know, there shouldn't be strings attached to it. It should be out of the kindness of your heart and
Yeah.
onward.
I'm not saying if that was your intention, then what's the problem? Like, you know, you had the intention to, if somebody asked you for money for food and you had the intention to essentially give them money for food, like they asked, and then they do something else, is it? What more can you do? And then also as well, it's just kind of like we're moving into a society where it's like, I would like for elected officials to essentially make something where, as far as like food stamps and hot food being more accessible.
Yes.
As far as that, because you can buy cold food and a homeless person has food stamps and they have to get cold food and they get like a chicken. How are they gonna warm up the chicken?
Yeah, how you gonna cook the
How you
chicken?
gonna cook the chicken?
Literally.
Homeless people don't get food stamps no more. They got employment requirements.
Yeah, they got
Homeless people are
employment
not getting stamps no
requirement.
more. The children are yearning for the stamps. Like,
Wait, hold on, they still can, because you can still have a job and still be homeless.
Yeah,
That's
true.
fair.
Gotta remember that too.
Yeah.
And then also too, it's just like the new requirements now for like food stamps and whatnot. You have to have like volunteer hours and like strict work hours and whatnot. What about those homeless people that are disabled?
I think they do. Not to be controversial, y'all. Not to be controversial. No, they do definitely. I was looking into it because I work for a housing partnership doing Section 8. So that was one of the big things that we were really worried about, was the administration trying to put time limits and work requirements around it. But I think it ended up with a little bit more of a watered down version, where it's not mandating employment, but showing that you're searching for employment, or if you're able to do community service hours, and senior citizens and disabled people exempt from that. But that's why I think it's important for us to look at these policies and know what the actual criteria are for these things, because that's how they sneak weird stuff into it, banking on the fact that we're going to hear something on the news, or we're going to hear it from somebody else and automatically kind of give up. And I think that that's what they thrive on, misinformation of, oh, well, I'm just assuming that I have to have 40 hours of employment, why even bother? And they hope that people feel that way so that they're averted from even getting the resources they need and realizing, hey, there's actually an easier way to do this. But I think that creating more barriers for people along the way, especially in a society where the cost of everything has just gone up so astronomically that I'll die on this hill. The middle class and lower class are virtually the same thing, because at the end of at least the lower middle class, because at the end of the month, you only got like $100 in your pocket, and it's really difficult out here paying for health insurance, paying for food, paying for childcare, and all, sometimes you're paying for childcare the same rate that you're making hourly at your job. So at that point, you're going to work to be able to, focus on being able to pay for your kid to even be taken care of. But I digress.
Yeah, and that's where it goes back to circling back to the conversation of who exactly are we voting for? Who are we putting in these chairs and these spaces to be servants of the people, essentially. And I kind of want to ask this question of, what was your guys' first voting experience like? Or if you didn't vote, what was it like for you to essentially, what was it like for the peers around you? And how did that like shape your narrative on voting?
Mine was boring. I'm not gonna lie. My first time voting was super boring. I didn't feel super educated about about the candidates in the way that I would now. I didn't do any research. I definitely was one of those people that was like, listen, D, 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 D. All right, let's pray. And it was what it was for me, I think. And again, because it was coming from that passion of, well, I can't let the other side win because I feel like they're targeting people that look like me or people that are in my position. But I think the older I've gotten and the more immersed I have in like political science and public policy in that world, the more important it's felt for me to have a very solid knowledge of who is on my ballot, and realizing a lot of people are running uncontested. There's nobody running against them. It's an automatic slate.
Yeah.
And at that point, do you have a vote? It seems like that's just who's going to represent you, and you have to do your best at that point to consolidate what they're running on. And I think that's important. I think it's an important thing to bring up, especially in this segment, because we're going to take a short commercial break, and and for those who are in Maryland, give you a little bit of background of the Maryland General Assembly website, how you can look up your representative using your address. See what district you're in, see who is currently an elected official in your region, and how you can look at some of the legislation they've supported, that they've sponsored and introduced, as well as gearing you guys up for your ballot, showing you how you can look up your candidates, who's going to be running in your district, so that everybody feels a little bit more informed. So yeah, we're going to cut to that right now. Welcome, everybody. This is going to be a tutorial for Maryland state voters so that come election day, you feel prepared and you're able to navigate and find your current representatives and those who will be running for that position. So we're going to start off here on the Maryland General Assembly website, mgaledge.maryland.gov. From here, we're going to navigate over to where it says members and scroll down to find my representatives. And from here, we're going to navigate over to where it says look up. This is where you're going to put in your home address. For all example purposes, we're going to use the address of Druid Hill Park, which is 3001 East Drive, 21217, and click find. From here, it's going to pull up all of our current legislators for 2026 as it stands today. So it goes from governor down to comptroller for the state of Maryland, and then we also can see our Maryland congressional district, which is 7. This is representative of those who are at the federal level in Congress, so your U.S. senators and your U.S. representatives in the House of Representatives. However, for this particular election season in Maryland, we're going to primarily focus on your Maryland legislative district. As we can see, our legislative district here near Druid Hill Park is District 40. So we're listed and see our state senators as well as some of our state delegates who are in that district as well. From here, you have the option to explore a little bit more about who the incumbents are, meaning that you can click on the representative and it will pull up a various amount of information, including the committee that they may serve on, their address, and ways that you can contact them via phone or email, as well as their party affiliation. If you would like to know more about the different legislation that they've sponsored or supported, we can go ahead and click legislation and scroll down to see some of the different things that they voted on and things that they sponsored as some of their primary concerns in their district. Once we've gathered that information, we're going to go ahead and navigate to the website ballotready.org/us/Maryland. From here, it's going to give us the information that the next statewide election in Maryland is the Maryland primary election on Tuesday, June 23rd, 2026. The primary election is not determining who's going to actually sit in those seats. What it determines is who's going to be on the ballot for the final vote in November. We're going to go ahead and give that a click where it says Maryland primary election. From here is where you're going to see a list of everybody who's running for each of the positions that you will see on your ballot this year. So we can see that we have those running for governor, lieutenant governor, state attorney general, state comptroller, U.S. representative. Remember, we were Congressional District 7 for the address that we put in. So these are going to be some of the candidates that will be on the ballot for that District 7. as well as state senator. And if we go all the way down to the bottom, we get the options for state representative. Now, to make this a little bit easier, if we can remember, we were District 40 for the state of Maryland. So we're going to go ahead and Control F and punch in 40. It immediately pops up those who are running for state senator in our district. And if we go ahead and click it one more time, we can then see who are running for the delegate position in Maryland as well. Now, if we would like a little bit more information about the candidates that are running in this particular district, we can go ahead and give them a click. And here it should pop up a little bit of information about them, including some of their experience, their website, their social media, as well as some of the issue stances that they've taken over time to give you a little bit more information on where they stand. We strongly encourage everybody to go through the list of each of the candidates that are running in your particular district so that you feel fully prepared on election day to make your strongest choice. Thank you so much for tuning in with us today, and we hope to see you on June 23rd. Right, welcome back, guys. We're going to kick it off with a little bit of myth, myth versus fact. Lily, you want to take it away?
Yeah. All right. Myth. You have to know everything about politics or the people running before voting.
Well, in the sense that ideally, yeah, you probably should. But if we're being realistic, most people who go in the booth do not know who they're voting for. They don't know what offices they're voting for. They don't know the responsibilities, like the range of power and like responsibility that they come with. Like most people just aren't aware. I'll speak for myself. I'm not aware of most people on the ballot. I've never heard your name before. I've never seen you. I haven't even seen like your little boards in the like in the lawn. So like I don't know who you are.
Yeah.
Yeah, outside of presidential election, a lot of people don't necessarily look into the local elections and seeing who exactly is going to be representing them in their spaces, in their communities. So as far as that, they're just depending on the executive elections to essentially be like, oh, this person is going to influence all the other, like, no, it's not that. You just have to essentially look into your local elections because they're just as important or even more important than essentially the presidential election, because yes, this will be the president of the United States, but however, the people who make the policies in your state, in your city, in your county are essentially the people in the local elections. So how are we going to educate ourselves essentially to not only know and be privy to who exactly will be representing us, but then also as well make sure the person that we want gets in that seat. But I think that it's a myth to essentially know everybody who's going to be on your ballot, because like I said, not everybody is necessarily paying attention or is privy to the local elections. We hear a lot, I would say, about the presidential elections and whatnot, but to echo what I was just saying, not many people or not a lot of people are pretty much just focused on the local elections, just because it's just been like this thing where it's been publicized more. So the presidential election is more publicized as opposed to the local elections.
Yeah. And I just want to add real quick. I mean, you don't always have to know everything about that person. It's just kind of feeling comfortable and confident with who you decide to vote for, because even if, you do kind of regret it, it's like, you tried. You give it a shot, it's okay. And like, again, even with like the local ones, if you don't like them, just vote them out the next time. Like,
I wish it was that easy.
for the most part. But yeah. All right. Well, the next one, local elections aren't important.
Oh, big myth, big myth.
Big myth.
I feel like it's important though to ask yourself, like, what does local mean to you? Because for me, listen, y'all, I'm one of those people that after I think 2020 truly for me was when I tuned out of a lot of what was going on federally. And I know that doesn't sound right. I know that, it's still maybe a little controversial, but for me, I had to lock in locally. Like if it doesn't concern Baltimore City right now or Maryland, I feel like sometimes I literally don't have the mental capacity for it. I can't. If it's outside of what I'm directly seeing right now, which already needs so much effort and work, I, as an individual human being, just don't have that capacity in this moment. Baltimore City is my main focus. There's so much work to be done here in my backyard that to think about 49 other states right now and the amount of attacks that it's under constantly. I can't even watch the news half the time. It's too much. It's absolutely too much. And it doesn't highlight any of the beautiful things that my city is doing, our city is doing.
You're speaking my language, singing my song. Like voting is important. Federal elections, state elections, they're all very important. We got to get into the community. Like we have to get outside and talk to people. And like, of course, there are policymakers who are making decisions on our behalf that impact and influence us, right? But there's still stuff that we can do as individuals to like aid each other, community, mutual aid, communities, like go outside, talk to people, touch grass. Like it's really not all like doom and gloom. Like Mike was saying, like on the news, sitting in the house watching the news will have you thinking the world is going up in flames. I'm telling you. And it's really not that bad. Like people are like still loving, still singing, still dancing in the streets. Like go outside. Like
it takes a village.
Yes.
Yeah, it definitely does. Go out in your community. We can come together millions for the Knicks winning a championship, but we can't get millions of people out in the streets, advocating for housing. That blows me away.
Yeah.
That blows me away. The things that our communities come together for sometimes, versus what they don't.
Right.
But then we like to stay at home and complain. It's like, well, what did you do? What did you do in the community for your homeless population? What did you do in the community for the welfare of children? How are you advocating for that on a daily basis? But you'll sit there and run down to Madison Square Garden for the next game. All right, guys, we'll storm the Ravens Stadium.
I don't know if people are aware of how much they can like impact the community. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
Like I think that we have more like impact over our local community in Baltimore City than Trump does. And like, obviously, I mean, apples to oranges, but like,
literally.
but like, Trump is not physically going out here and taking food away from people.
Yeah.
But we can actually physically go out there and give food to the people who need it. You know what I mean? Like we can be the change you want to see be the change you want to see in the world. Like
love a cliche. They hit.
Yes, and I love that you reframe it like that, because that's always important too when it comes to like how the political climate is looking right now. You always have to just frame it differently, because if you don't, you just get stuck in that cycle of just being like, what's the point? It doesn't even matter. But it's like when you reframe it like we really do have an impact, especially in our local communities, it kind of makes you feel a little better. I don't know. But going into our last one, voting doesn't make that big of a difference overall.
Oh, child. Who want to take this one?
Myth.
Listen.
voting
Myth.
does matter. Voting matters.
Yes.
Do you believe that when you
No,
said
I
it?
don't believe it. I genuinely don't believe it, and I want to believe it so badly.
Wake it up.
Because that's what we've all been taught. You know what I mean? Like
Yeah.
political action goes so far beyond what you do in that booth. You know what I mean? Like we have to be the like.
Absolutely.
I don't mean to be repetitive. We have to be the change we want to see. Like if you're not happy with what's going on, and you're allowed to make a difference. Like the only difference between somebody who does something and doesn't do something is that somebody does it. Just do it. Like you're allowed to make a change in whatever way you so see fit.
And you're also allowed to meet with your legislators. I feel like a lot of what the Youth Action Board has taught me, and probably the rest of our team, is that legislators are a lot more accessible than people give them credit for. And I believe it was Delegate Regina Boyce here in Baltimore City that had said that on one of our meetings. She said, please don't call anything inaccessible that you haven't tried to access. And, I think that that's been really empowering for our group over this past year, is knowing that honestly, when we've been reaching out to legislators locally and councilmen, we've gotten great responses. They're actually willing to sit down for 30 minutes and hop on a Teams meeting and say, hey, what's your organization about? What do you guys care about? What can I do to help support that? And we can also sit there and listen, question them. You work for us. You're a public servant at the end of the day. What are you doing about youth homelessness? How are you bringing youth into the room? And if you're not, how can we help you do that? So I think it's really important too for people to realize these are not top-notch celebrities. You know what I mean? They put their pants on one leg at a time in the morning too. They also are human beings that feel that feel a lot for the system, and it's why they ran for office, or I hope that that's why they ran for office. So
Well,
some of them, I hope that's why some of them ran for office. I like to have a little bit of hope in the system. But yeah, legislators, try to meet with your local legislators, email them, send your opinions off and ask for a response back. That's a big thing. Don't just send it off into the wind. I feel like that's like a common thing now where you'll get online and it's like, okay, sign up for this list and we'll automatically send
Yeah.
a letter to your legislator. Listen, if they're getting 40 emails saying the same thing, all day, at a certain point they start to check out because
Yeah.
it's the same message, and clearly you only cared enough to put your email in and send that off. You didn't care enough to actually sit down and explain to us your story, why it's so impactful, what you genuinely want me to see, what you want me to do personally about it. So yeah, be personal, email them, call their office yourself, ask what they're doing, get involved.
Right.
It matters. It genuinely matters. And I've seen it with my own eyes where we've had legislators, after we've talked to them, actually stand behind an issue, actually vote that way on an issue because they made the promise behind closed doors, at least to us, that that's what they were going to do. And, they can be held accountable for that.
can I ask a question?
Yes, ma'am.
Do we genuinely believe that we can depend upon these people to to move on our behalf?
Not always, absolutely not always, but it's important to let them know that the issue exists because a lot, I'm not going to say all of them, but some of them are actually concerned about their district. And a lot of the times they're hearing these issues for the first time. How many times have we sat down and they're like, youth homelessness?
Real.
I mean, yeah, we actually haven't thought that much about that. That's something that's definitely slipped under the radar. What can we do with you guys to kind of boost your message up? Things of that nature. I believe it depends on who you're talking to
Real.
and how much effort and sometimes emotion you've put behind the issue and how many other organizations and people you can get to vouch for it. Yeah, I do think that it depends on who it is and probably the day. It's like a judge, you know what I mean? It depends on the morning she had. If your ass is getting probation or not, you're going to jail. Like, speaking from personal experience.
Moral of the story is make sure that your legislators, your elected officials touch the same grass you do.
That was good.
That was a fucking word. I love fucking word.
Yeah, because at the end of the day, they can say they're for the people and whatnot, but then where are they at? Like, what do you think about this transportation, like the public transportation system? Have you been on it recently? I was about to say, have you been around the Section 8 houses recently? How have you seen, like, as far as gun violence in the city? Like, what was your perspective on that? How have you what have you done to get on the ground and really be like, I want this to end? Like, I want gun violence in the city to end. Or I would say harm reduction as far as like drugs and opioids and whatnot in the city, in your city per se. Like, what are you doing as far as like harm reduction efforts to essentially be able to say that to reduce this problem, and be like I said, a people servant, somebody who has touched the same grass as me, people who essentially like be a person who people can gravitate to and actually like see and feel heard by.
Yeah. I like that. All right, guys. Kind of trying to wrap it up a little bit. I think it's important maybe for us to kind of go around and talk about what we hope people even get from this conversation, because as youth, we all feel so differently when it comes to voting. I think there's a piece of us that wants it to matter sometimes more than it does. And I think that that's always the politically correct thing to say. Go vote, go vote. It's important. Your voice matters. It's going to do something, I think. But in practice, if so many people don't feel that, who have already participated in that, where do we land on it? How do we, encourage other people to still feel involved and integrated into their society and community? I think voting, it's an important act. But more than that, I think the process of knowing who's on your ballot is probably the most important thing, because whoever you vote for, they may not win. But it does behoove you to know who else was running, what their platform was, because that still could be your legislator at the end of the day. And I think really just educating yourself on who are these people? What do they stand for? And how can I try to access them? How do I get a conversation out of them? You know?
Yeah, and then also too, I just want to echo that same sentiment. Not only to just go vote, go vote, go vote, but then also to be able to hold your elected officials accountable. Like if you feel as though you're experiencing a grievance of any kind, reach out to them, go to their office, and just stay there till they kick you out. Maybe I don't
And
know.
if all else fails, put them on Reddit.
Yeah, put them
Blast
on
them.
Reddit.
Blast them to the community.
But then also too, I just urge that you join your community and be able to give back to your community as well, just like volunteering at nonprofits, volunteering with the grassroots efforts, being there to essentially help people vote. But then also as well, I urge community organizers to essentially not get into the work thinking that you have nothing to fix for yourself when it comes to your community, because we often get into this work and think that, oh, essentially that we are the, what's the word I'm looking for? We're pretty much just like the high standard, or like the pretty much that's like the viewpoint of where people would want to be at, as opposed to just like putting ourselves in that position and where we're at and just seeing where exactly we fall within ourselves, because at the end of the day we are all works of pieces of work that need to like be expanded upon. And we often sometimes forget in this work too that we have stuff that we need to work on as well as individuals, and things that we need to see from a different lens as well as things that we aren't necessarily as privy to when it comes to the issues at hand. So how do we hold each other accountable and make sure that we essentially make sure that we are serving the people of not only Baltimore City, but then I urge you all as well, if wherever you're appealing from, urge your communities to essentially hold each other accountable and make sure that you all are working together as a village to get what you need, whether that be working on housing, working on food accessibility, working on LGBTQ rights, civil rights. Sorry, I thought I had to sneeze.
You
Uh,
guys having this.
I did. Listen,
It's
it's
fine.
allergy
It's
season.
allergy season.
It's allergy
You're
season.
right.
But like I said, just make sure you get on the ground and really just see outside of yourself and really just make sure that you don't see yourself as putting yourself on a higher standard. Just remember to touch the same grass that the people that you serve.
Yeah. I like that.
I think I'm along a similar wave as you, Lamar. I'm voting for kindness. I'm voting for empathy. Like, if there's election season, I'm voting for community. Like, go outside, talk to people. You have clothes that you're not wearing, give them to somebody in need. You have $1 in your pocket that you weren't really like saving up for nothing anyways. Give it to somebody who could use it. There's always, we're all down bad, right? Life is hard, but there's always somebody who has a little bit harder. You know what I mean? So like, give what you can, what you have the capacity for. Be as kind as you can. Be kind to people because you have the capacity in your heart to do that. Don't do it with the expectation of what you can get in return. Don't depend on other people to change the world for you. Make the world that you want to live in. Make the community that you want to live in. Make the city you want to live in.
I second all of that. There's a lot more that we can do as individuals. There's a lot more we can do as a community and a collective, to be showing up for ourselves, each other more. You can't serve nobody else if you're not taken care of first. You know, if your mental isn't right, if you're physically not able to, put your best foot forward. So always bring it back to mental health. Make sure that you're good, so that when you show up for other people, it is with it's with all the energy, all the love, all the compassion that you can give. And just keep trying to be involved. There's a lot of advocacy groups out here. There's a lot of people organizing. It may feel a little underground, but I think that's what's really important right now. And just finding your community and making sure that you feel a root to where you live. You feel connected to where you live. And if you don't feel that sense of community, it might be time for a new community. That's what I'll say on
I
that.
like that. I like that.
Listen,
Thank you for having me here and for inviting me.
thanks for
Thank
being
you
here,
for
Lolly.
Yeah, thanks for being
You're a great
here.
addition. Very awesome special guest.
Thank you. Thank you.
But yes, guys, we are really happy that you were here today to have this discussion with us. And despite how, some of us, may feel about the process, it's always important to get involved. And we really hope that you guys click the links, check out who your legislators are, and do your best to get involved where you can and what you have the capacity to do in that. So thank you so much for joining us today. Yeah.
And voting's coming up.
Happy voting season.
Yes, go vote. Go vote.
Yes, go vote. Go vote.
Do your big one.
The biggest.
Do
Okay.
your big one.
Thank you.